Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about no-res. I know you guys hear me talk about or mention no-res all the time. We use it in pretty much everything, but I've never really done a video where we talk about no-res because I have a lot of guys asking me, what is no-res? What does it do? What's the purpose of it? And so today we're going to go through it. No-res. It has multiple functions. This is a sheet of it here. Comes in 27 inches by 24 inch sheets, and its function is to control the resonance of the panel that it's put against, and it also has a foam layer that absorbs standing waves. It also balances out the airspace that it takes up. So first of all, we have to understand that every speaker, every panel on every speaker has a resonance. There's a resonance frequency on everything. And some speakers resonate quite to the extreme, and some speakers, their panels are not that much of an issue. But there's always some resonance there. If you've ever looked at a Stereophile magazine and you look at the speakers that are reviewed there, John Atkinson has usually sent each speaker, and part of the measurements that he does is to take an accelerometer and put it somewhere on the speaker's panel, and you can see the resonance that he measures on each of those panels. And almost every speaker that's sent in has some resonance at some frequency. Some are horrible and some are not that bad, but they're all there. So it's always a problem. It's been a problem. And for some speakers, they relish it a little bit. There's some speakers that are made over in Europe where they're allowing the cabinet wall to resonate in a frequency range where it's maybe in the lower vocal to add a little bloomishness, a little bloom to the way that it sounds. And some people like that. The designers of the speakers may even think that that's something that's a plus or a bonus or some attribute that they like. However, that is not part of the music. When your cabinets are resonating, it is not reproducing what you're sending it. It's becoming an instrument, and it's not natural. And when I listen to speakers that have that added bloominess, I hear it just like that, and I know it's coloration. I'm used to listening to speakers that are well braced and are lined with no-res, or they're like these big open baffle speakers back here that have no panel resonance issues at all. So when you hear a speaker that have those resonances, it stands out immediately, and you know it's noise, it's coloration. So the no-res product is designed to eliminate that. And let's go back again. Years ago when I first started with GR Research, my partner and I were carrying a product called Black Hole 5. Black Hole 5 was a great product, and it had a 40 mil thick damper. By damper, I mean it's the layer here that goes against the cabinet wall. It had a foam layer, and then it had a barrier layer, and then it had a 1-inch foam layer. So multi-layered material. The damper helped control the resonances of the panel, and the added mass of the whole structure helped control that as well. Now what it had was a suspended barrier layer, and what those suspended barrier layers are for soundproofing. So if you've got, let's say, a room that you want to soundproof, or you've got some equipment running in that room that's noisy, there are those materials you can put on the walls that is a foam layer and a barrier layer and another foam layer, and some of that energy will get absorbed within the barrier layer and not transmit through to the other wall. So it's soundproofing material, and there are companies that sell that product, and they use it they advertise its use in loudspeakers, which is not a good idea. It doesn't work. We don't have problems with speakers where we're hearing sound coming through the walls of the speakers. Typically the problem is the woofer is exciting those walls. They are exciting those walls, and those cabinet wall resonances are then audible. We don't have a situation where sound is passing through it, that's higher frequency going through it. So we're not having to use material that's soundproofing. Also with those materials that have the suspended barrier layer, and it was also this way with the earlier Black Hole 5 materials, we began to notice that the mid-range would sound a little congested sometimes if you put a lot of that in there. And reason being is those suspended barrier layers tended to mass load the driver itself. So it would react to the movement of the material that it created from the change in the pressure levels inside the box. And then it would muddy the mid-range. And we'd realize sometimes we could take Black Hole 5 out and put fiberglass insulation back in there, and the vocal region may be cleaner, but then we didn't have the resonance control. And it's the same way with the sonic barrier products. So a lot of times you stick that stuff in there and you're muddying up the mid-range, and it has no damping layer on it at all. So it's not doing anything for resonance control. So the cabinet walls are still resonating, they're still singing, and there's still a problem. So I knew there had to be a solution. So I started working with about 3 different companies back in the day, and I had them make tons of samples of products like this. We had various thicknesses and different types of foam, different types of coating on the foam. I had some of the stuff made with a lead layer in it, a bunch of stuff. Finally decided the lead layer wasn't a good idea, and for various reasons. And we realized the best and most effective thing was to keep the barrier layer out and just focus on the damper, which is what became No-Res. The No-Res has a 70 mil thick damper, so it's almost twice as thick of a damper as what we originally were using in the Black Hole 5. And it's very effective at controlling the resonances of whatever panel you're putting it in. And it's easy to install. It's got pressure sensitive adhesive on the back, so basically you just peel and stick and put it in there. You can run this stuff through a table saw, cut it up in little pieces. It cuts like butter on a table saw. You can flip it over to the barrier layer side, the damper layer side, and you can score it with an X-Acto knife or box cutting knife and cut it into pieces that way. You can get some great big tough industrial scissors and cut through this stuff. It doesn't matter if you've got a panel this big you're trying to control, if you put 1 sheet in there, or if you put 6 pieces in there, all butted together. It's still going to work exactly the same. So you can just cut it up and stick it in. It's easy to install. It's super effective. And it is an improvement in almost everything we put it in. Every speaker. I mean, it's a cheap upgrade. This stuff's $54.95 a sheet now. I know it's more expensive than it used to be. It's a lot more expensive to make now than it used to be. It's still a cheap fix or a cheap upgrade. Like I said, it'll tighten up all of those resonances to where the bass response is tighter, it's cleaner, the vocal region is cleaner, and sometimes you even get an increase in bass output from lining the cabinet with this stuff. Reason being is woofer may be moving out, box panels are being sucked in, woofer panel goes in, puts pressure on the box panels then flex out. So it's an opposite effect. It's out of phase with the woofer, and it decreases the output. So when you decrease that flexing or that resonance of those panels, it actually allows you to hear now what the woofer's producing, and you may sometimes get an increase in bass output from it. So it's doing multiple things. Also, people keep asking me, how much airspace does it take up? Does it take up airspace? It doesn't take up airspace technically. The barrier does take up airspace. It's almost 1/8 of an inch thick. It is taking up airspace, but the foam is open cell foam. That means air passes straight through it. When you put an open cell foam product, or you put fiberglass insulation or polyfill inside a speaker cabinet, what you're effectively doing is you're slowing down the airflow in the box. So as you slow the airflow down in the box, the woofer then sees that box as a larger airspace. Remember, the compliance of the woofer is the spider and the surround that are holding the diaphragm, plus the airspace in the box, or plus the airspace in the box, plus the port and the way it's tuned. It's loading that driver, and it's part of the compliance of it. So when you slow down the airflow in the box, it acts as if that compliance is changing in a way to where it's a bigger box. So the effectiveness of the No-Res is it's taking up some airspace, but it's also slowing down the airflow in the box, which makes it bigger. So it kind of neutralizes that out. It kind of evens out. When we run an impedance sweep on a speaker and then we line it with No-Res and we run an impedance sweep again, the tuning frequency is usually within 1 or 2 hertz of where it was. It's pretty close. It may change it a little one way or another, but we're not talking significant changes here. It's basically airspace neutral. So don't worry about it taking up airspace in your box. Also, yes, the cost has come up recently, and a lot of that is due to just the cost of raw materials. As you guys know, inflation is going crazy right now, and the cost of shipping has gotten expensive. We used to order this stuff in a pallet at a time, and it got to where the cost of that was getting so high that we finally had to look at bringing in a full semi-trailer load at a time, and that's what we did on our last order. The price would have gone up, but because I bought in such bulk, they were able to hold that price for another order, and instead of bringing it in one pallet at a time, it was cheaper to bring in a whole 53-foot trailer load of it at a time and keep the shipping costs down so that I could hold the price. Now, we've got another semi-trailer load coming in about a month and a half, and the cost of shipping has gone up quite a bit since last year, and the cost of this raw materials have gone up a little bit. So there may be a little bit of an increase in price after June when that next order gets here, but for now, you can get it at $54.95 a sheet, and that is a bargain for what it does. You're getting a lot of added performance for not much money. It's an easy tweak, it's a cheap tweak, and like I said, it's almost guaranteed 100% improvement every time, and we use it in everything. I also have guys asking, can I DIY something like this? Can I make something like this? Go to the hardware store? Yes and no. I mean, you can DIY something that'll get you effectiveness, but not this level of effectiveness. You can buy heavy industrial floor tiles and contact cement and go to another store and get foam, and you can hodgepodge this stuff together and breathe contact cement. Don't do that indoors. And you could get close to this for about 75% of the cost, but then you got to figure in the cost of your time and the amount of money you spent driving around and buying this and that and the DIY aspect of it. And in the end, guys, it's cheaper to buy buy sheets of no-res than to try and build something yourself on the DIY end. I understand that the guys overseas may tend to want to do that because it's costly to ship this stuff overseas. This stuff is heavy, and it's gotten costly to ship it even here in the U.S. It gets into dimensional weight because the box is 28 inches by 24 inches, and we can put 4 of these in a box. So it's the same price if you order 1 sheet versus 4 sometimes. So order several sheets. You're not paying any more in shipping. Another thing we've started doing is we run this stuff to the table saw and cut it in half, and then we reduce the box size in half. So dimensional weight goes down. So we send you 2 half sheets instead of a full sheet just to save you shipping costs. We typically do that on small orders. So we're doing everything we can to keep the cost down. But you got to remember, this stuff is heavy, and there is dimensional weight involved in sending you full sheets. So expect that when you order. You'll see the price there. When you place the order online, you'll see the shipping costs. It's a better value if you order more of them at a time. And we're doing everything we can to keep the costs low and so that we can offer the best value possible. But it is creeping up just like everything right now. But we do have good stock on it at the moment. And if you want to order some, now's a good time before shipping costs or the production cost goes up further. And I guarantee it will in next order. So great value, $54.95 a sheet. That's a cheap tweak in high-end audio. So no-res, great product. We love it. We put in everything. Now you know all about it. Thanks for watching the video. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't, and we'll see you in the next one. See you guys.